I hate to disabuse you, but really the power is going to be yours,
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to have to develop some insight. It's going to take some effort, and there's going to be some obstacles, which are some of them are resources, some of them are your self image, and so
Mm-hmm.
forth.
Welcome to the Metamorphosis Project Podcast. I'm your host, Tenya Eickenberg, and this is a space where transformation begins. Welcome back to the Metamorphosis Project Podcast. Today I have with me Lincoln Stoller. Lincoln, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Good, good. Now, we were talking a little bit before I hit record, and we're going to talk a little bit about um, bringing people into the space where they know that where they feel empowered to heal. But I first want to find out, how did you get into this line of work? What was the catalyst or the moment that took you down this path? Because you have a lot of uh job titles or professional job titles. I was reading over your bio, and I love how you put it that you're a um psychi uh was it psychiatrist,
No,
neuro
psychologist.
psychologist, neuro hypnotherapist, author. So it was just like that therapist word was the end of like five different five different
Yes.
prefixes. So how did you start on this path?
Well, my path has been pretty weird. I don't find anyone else on a similar path. Well, bits of it, but it's kind of like seems random. It definitely started in childhood and family, and it progressed through school and university and travel and business. So all of those things I kind of mind for maximum benefit because I guess I'm kind of, what do they call it? High performance? That kind of sounds too
Hmm.
self aggrandizing. Just
Overachiever.
or under lack of self confidence, one of those things that
Okay.
motivates you to keep trying to improve your self image.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I think average, normal, balanced people don't try so hard to do stuff. And the result is that they're satisfied with less rewards and less dissatisfied with the world. And maybe that makes happier people. So I can't exactly endorse, the high risk path. I mean, I say that seriously. One of my projects is to explain why people do high risk sports. I mean, these are sports where you can kill yourself, right?
Right.
Doing things that don't even look possible when you watch them.
Like,
And
I don't know if you saw the guy on Netflix that scaled the building over in, was it Japan?
I think it was Hong
Um,
Kong, yeah.
or Hong Kong. Yeah. Just like, why?
Yeah, why?
What?
So I'm interviewing people who do that, and it's interesting. I've interviewed people for other subjects too, but it's interesting on this subject. I get very difficult answers, or answers that are very difficult to follow. People's transcripts are, they can't finish a sentence. They are not sure where they're going. They're not sure what the answer is. I'm asking them, why do they do this and what do they get out of it? And it's very hard for them to speak it.
Yeah.
But, they know it well enough to do it. And in many cases, they've been doing it for a long time and become very good at what they do. So, what am I saying? Well, it's when you have high standards and aim for high achievement, there's should be a high risk of failure. It depends what failure means. You don't want it to mean killing yourself, but often people sort of put that on the menu. Like, well, that example you gave of Alex Honnold's climb is a little more of a celebrity stunt, um, in the sense that the viewers don't really understand what's going on, the
Hmm.
risks that are involved,
Yeah. Yeah.
and he does. It's just sort of like circus in a sense, um, and you're not always rewarded for this stuff. Anyway, your question is, well, how did I get into this? So I was doing mountaineering as a adolescent and continued to do it up until graduate school when I didn't have the time. And I kind of segued into travel at that point because it
Okay.
was didn't require you to be so committed. And it was not as risky, but it was kind of just as interesting, especially the way I did it, which was without much support, just sort of
Hmm.
throwing myself into different countries and so forth. And, there's this oscillation between finding insight in yourself and finding insight in other people. But what happened next? Well, I had this background in science. I had a doctorate in physics, so I was technically able. I mean, everybody's able. It's just how comfortable you are with being confused. In physics, if you're going to be good at any technical field, you have to be comfortable with being confused. Otherwise, you're going to stick with what people know, which is where people are stuck and misunderstandings that people have accepted. So if you don't want to accept what people know, you're kind of in the area of the unknown, which is a good place to be if you want to invent things, but it's not very secure in terms of self confidence, really. It's interesting. In highly technical fields, you often see the best people are the highly rewarded people, the ones who have accomplished a lot. And I've seen some of these people who were like childhood prodigies who were not very mature and didn't have a lot of personal experience, but they were rewarded for their great skill, whatever their skill was. And this is one of the paths I followed, and I wasn't particularly well rewarded. And I met a lot of people who did not inspire me, and a few people who did. So where was I? Did, the academic thing, did travel, and the travel got me interested in culture, and the culture, these are both, Western cultures like traveling around Europe, and
Hmm.
also indigenous cultures like traveling around Central America and South America. Then I went to Mongolia, and that one was a different culture again. I was surprised, you don't have a lot of 500-year-old cultures that haven't changed much, at least not in the West. And
Right.
Mongolia is
Yeah.
one. Um, so it was all kind of broadening. And then I got involved in hypnotherapy because that sounded wild and had some crazy stories. And I figured, well, why not? It seems that's something I haven't tried, and I didn't feel any less competent at that than I did at
Hmm.
most other things. And that led into a funny combination of brain science and psychology because there were people doing brain science, the kind of measure people's brains while they do strange things. Those folks, there are a few of them around.
I would love to be one of those guinea pigs.
Well, that's not hard. Well, it wasn't hard at the time. I don't know where those people are now, But anyway, I sort of learned what they were doing.
Yeah.
And then there was the idea that not only could you measure people's brain profiles while they were doing strange things, but you could train their brains to maybe do these, not to do the strange things, but to have the same outcome. So instead of actually taking psychedelics, you could actually train a person. Well, here are the extremes that people were being um, measured for. So they were being measured while they were taking psychedelics, measure their brain. They were being measured while they were doing meditation
Hmm.
and prayer, or whatever it is they called it. And of course, they were measured if they displayed um, some abnormal quality like depression or anxiety or paranoia. What the people looking for signatures, and
Right.
in that,
What part of the brain is lighting up when these things are going on?
right,
Yeah.
and that developed a whole that, not surprisingly, there's a whole nother group of people who argue about what they're seeing and what it means and whether it's fundamental and whether it's predictable. So I got involved in that. And then on top of that, as everyone will appreciate, there are the capitalists who are going to try to sell you something. We've developed something, in spite of the fact that no one has any uniform opinion about what's going on. There's always somebody to sell you something that will do
Right.
it. And that kind of often pollutes the field. And it did kind of pollute this field because people would be trying to do both. They'd be trying to tell you what the truth was from their laboratory experiments and sell you the device that they just invented.
Hmm.
So it's like it got pretty, I would say, polluted with bias. So
Yeah.
some groups and some people were more pure and more fact based, that other people were more commercial and trying to sell you things. So I stomached as much of that as I could, and then moved into therapy, thinking, still looking for answers, still looking for a field in which there was more separation between the people who were trying to profit and the people who were trying to understand.
Hmm.
But if you've ever had experience with psychology, therapy, psychiatry, counseling, you'll realize that it's a profession. And although
Yep.
it has an arm that involves itself in finding the truth and measuring the facts, most people are trained as professionals, not as researchers.
Yeah.
So, as a professional, you're selling something.
Hmm.
You learn what it is you're selling. You pretty much have to believe what you're selling, otherwise you're not given a pass, you know.
Hmm.
So I was a difficult student because I did not believe what I was being told, and they would, give me poor marks because I wouldn't answer the question the way it was supposed to be answered.
Right. Right.
Partly because I didn't believe it, and partly because I, at that point, knew more.
Right. Because you'd had all this other
Yeah,
education and other things that kind of almost contradicted what you were learning
and
as a
you start to
therapist.
recognize the bullshit.
Yeah.
I've heard this kind of lecture before about what truth is, and come on. And there are some funny things like almost no people in psychology understand statistics. If they need to, they hire a statistician to do their statistics.
Hmm.
And, I understand statistics pretty well. I sometimes call myself a bad mathematician. I think I qualify. I'm definitely not a good mathematician. That's another strange group. But I understand statistics enough, and I understand that their statistics sucks and that they don't know it. So, so again, I'm a bad student, right? Oh, and this is the curse of knowing too much. And I'm not even trying to say I'm a genius. I'm just saying, gee, if you spend
You
enough
have
time
you have
learning
a lot
stuff,
of knowledge. You have a
you
lot of knowledge in a lot of different areas, which makes you have a much broader um picture of a situation.
So you start to put all this together, and then you start to work with people, and you start to have insight into them. So the thing that, to get back to sort of your topic, well, first of all, I can't unload all these peripheral insights and knowledge,
Not in
you know.
45 minutes, no.
Well, not just here, but not with people I'm working with.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I try to interest them and suggest things and maybe go in certain directions, but you can't do it all because look, they're paying me by the hour. So it's like, how much schooling would you want if you had to pay $200 an hour to get it?
Yeah.
You'd be very focused. And what people are focused on is what their problem is. And what
Right.
their problem is inevitably what their ignorance is. So it's like a hole. You try to pour into this hole knowledge or suggestions or insight, or it's a pretty deep hole. And you're not going to like go off on tangents easily because people aren't going to accept going off on tangents unless they're a special kind of person, right? Who's
Hmm.
been like me, always trying to understand stuff and has a lot of resources, which means money, but it also means time and latitude and flexibility and support.
Yeah. Yeah.
So a lot of people with problems don't have time, latitude, flexibility, and support, and they're very focused on their acute problem, especially in therapy. Their
Hmm.
acute problem is their
Right.
whatever it is. And as I say, that's usually their area of ignorance, or often is, not always. So I tend to have two kind of clients. I finally got into having accumulated hypnosis and neuropsychology and engineering and some other things. I then started to, hold my nose and learn about therapy, schools of
Hmm.
therapy, right? And it goes back to, Freud is still alive, and you would be really surprised the number of people who still believe that your problems are, your secret desires to have sex with your mother. It's like, oh my God, are you kidding me? I mean, it may have been a breakthrough 120 years ago, but,
Right.
times change.
Yeah.
But schools of thought often attempt to maintain themselves, right? There's still the Freud Institute teaching, right? And so there's the Jung Institute and the Freud Institute and the Adler Institute, and there are newer things that are even more wacky, and they're so it's like wherever you go. I mean, this is this the promise of capitalism? You know, free market and competition. What do you expect?
Yeah.
It invades every commercial field. So you have to have some independence and some judgment and some discretion and some skepticism. So here you come to me as a client thinking that I'm going to solve something with my magic wand, and it's like, I hate to disabuse you, but really the power is going to be yours,
Hmm.
and you're going to have to develop some insight. It's going to take some effort, and there's going to be some obstacles, which are some of them are resources, some of them are your self image, and so
Hmm.
forth.
Yeah.
So, we've got, 45 minutes now down to 35 minutes. And my clients come to me with a similar limitation in terms of time and money. And I'm charged with giving them something. So the question is, how much can I give them that isn't total bullshit, but is obviously going to be a lot of shortcuts and brief
Right.
overviews?
Right.
And then how much can I needle them to question their own prejudice and bias? And how much can I encourage them to? I mean, that's interesting. The sort of the carrot and the stick. Everybody's a kind of a donkey stuck between two haystacks, not sure which way to go. And I'm supposed to encourage them to go one direction and discourage them from going the other direction. And everybody in the counseling field has their prejudice and bias. One of them is making money. One the the most useful thing that Sigmund Freud said, in my opinion, is that psychotherapy is about making money for yourself. He actually said that. So,
Wow.
so okay, that's honest. I agree. That's a
Yeah.
lot of people
A
pursue
lot of
their
people would not be
profession.
that honest.
Well, I'll tell you, if I was more like that, I'd have more clients.
Probably. I often tell people that I want to work myself out of a job. I want my clients to do so well that they don't need me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Although
I know, but
I've known
you may
people,
come to regret that. You know.
you know what? As long as right now it's good that my work bills are being paid, my business bills are being paid, and right now that's all that I can ask for right now. It's sustaining itself. Would I love to have more clients on a weekly basis? Absolutely, because I want to help people. Um, but yeah, I don't have that mentality of give me more money, give me more money.
Well, here's the question that I ask myself: do I want to lower my standards to be more attractive to your average
More
struggling
people?
person,
Yeah.
or do I
Yeah.
want to increase my outreach to find the people that are more suitable to do the harder work and achieve the harder results? And I'm on this podcast because I basically have chosen the latter.
The outreach. Yep.
And it wouldn't be possible if it weren't for the internet and Zoom because my clients are not local for the
Yeah.
most part.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I try to get right down to brass tacks here, I try to encourage those people listening to take a broader view of whatever their issue is. And
Hmm.
for me, that broader view means look at your habits of thinking, which is the neuropsychology. How have you learned to react? What are your triggers? What are your fears? What is your sort of unconscious attraction? Uh, what are your conscious attractions? How discerning are you in terms of the thoughts you'll accept, the work you'll do, and the people you'll listen to?
Hmm.
Um, there are a lot of popular figures. I'm thinking like I don't look at these people much, but Dwayne Dyer is one. He's a relationship counselor, and Joe Dispenza is one. He's a
Hmm.
and it, these people are basically fakes. They've taken the high commercial um, route
Hmm.
to selling a product that is very thin and very well received. And
Yeah.
that's why they are
Well, it's
who they
it's
are.
it's quick. They market quick instant results.
And, although I cannot stand the low quality of their knowledge, many people find them inspiring.
They do.
So I
They do.
guess,
I have in the past.
yeah. So, what are you going to do? It's like two paths. They're not entirely different. Hopefully, they lead you to some insight and you'll discard the shell of.
Right. Hopefully people have some discernment when they're looking at anything, right? That they're able to say, is this going to benefit me? And if this is going to benefit me, what parts of it are benefiting me and what parts are do I need to leave behind?
Well, here's the interesting thing for me. I don't know the answer to that question for other people.
No.
They'll come with an issue, they'll come with an ability, and I'll develop some thoughts as to what might be a good path or what might be the truth, and I'll suggest it to them. And I'll usually, I won't sort of wrap it in a, rainbows and unicorns package. So some people be, um, will not be attracted, and other people will be.
Yeah.
And but I still don't know what the truth is. I still don't know.
Well,
I
because
mean,
it's
it's
their
a question.
truth.
It's their truth, and it's my exploration. I
Yeah.
learn in dealing with them, and I think, from the counselor's point of view, the faster you learn about the person you're dealing with, the better a counselor you can be. So some people I really quickly feel are deluding me and themselves, and I will challenge and contradict them.
Hmm.
And often those people are offended by the
They
suggestion,
don't like being called out.
and I kind of feel that I've done my best if I have done that.
Yeah.
That calling
Well,
them out was the best I
it's
could offer.
it's holding them accountable for their responses. It's holding them accountable for their reactions to things.
Well, you get it, but obviously they're not going to. As a
Right.
matter of fact, they do get it, and that's why they leave because they
Yeah.
don't want to.
Yeah.
They see where
Right.
this
They
is
don't want
going.
to face that part of them that is the
Sometimes
reason
quite.
why they're
That's
having
right.
problems.
Yeah, and sometimes quite direct. They'll just refuse. They say, "I'm not
Yeah.
going to go. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to talk about that."
Yeah.
And these are not mentally ill people. Well, maybe they are. I don't really know what that means, but there are some people who I enjoy working with schizophrenics, and I enjoy working with people. I mean, there are mental health issues that are not adversarial.
Yeah.
So depression is not adversarial. Anxiety is not adversarial.
Yeah.
Schizophrenia is not necessarily adversarial. But there are oppositional people and paranoid people and hostile people and violent people, and they're not fun to work with. And I
Yeah.
don't work with them well because I just get in a fight with them, you know, and they're not going to pay for that. So I end up working with the more compliant people, anxious, depressed, and what else? Well, the schizophrenics. I mean, I haven't worked. Schizophrenia is a very broad and difficult category. You never quite know what you're getting. It's very interesting. It's kind of like, mystery box. You don't know what's there when you open it. Could be, you could have a good relationship or you could have a hostile one. It depends on the level and so forth.
Yeah. So
And
how do you motivate those that are kind of on the edge of moving towards their own transformation? How do you motivate them to take that step in that direction?
well, I think the answer is pretty obvious, and we all know that. You offer them things that they like, and you dissuade them or try to dissuade them from things that they're willing to let go of. And you would like to learn what things they are so attached to that they won't let go of it, usually having to do with self-image,
Hmm.
whatever self-confidence they have. You're not, there is history of um, oppositional psychology approaches, where people harangue you and put you in the hot seat and condemn you. I don't even remember the names. Oh, there was like, damn, Eckert.
Eckhart
Oh,
Tolle?
not Eckhart Tolle. No, there were before that. There was like social enlightenment movements where you would be told how full of shit you were and how stuck you were, and then people reveled in their ignorance and they all bonded, and forget it. It's like passe. They're not doing it today. But you can offer this to some people, and that's not my. I'm not attracted to that. It's another commercial approach.
Hmm.
So, but to answer your question, you try to find out what people are open to, and I like the high performance people because they tend to be open to a lot. They tend to have more resources and they tend to have more confidence. So you can go further, you can contradict them, you can make more mistakes. And mistakes are great because that's exploring territory you don't know and you find
Hmm.
out things. So, to be specific, I try to explore, expose, and inform people about what brain training is, how their cognitive and neural habits are like blinders in terms of what they're willing to accept and what they're willing to find reward in. So who, what kind of personality types do you resonate with? If you can open that up, so if you're like a young person, just for example, and you're full of hormones and you're interested in love and lust, um, you may not be open to, you know, old women, old wise women, and or old wise men. But depending on where you're moving and the community you're moving through, you may be missing a lot of opportunities because of your preferences and the people around you and the way you spend your time. So I would like to open people up a little to what are your resources? Who around you has something to offer that you're overlooking? So it involves starting new conversations, going to new places, putting yourself in new situations. And if you've come to me, that sort of indicates that you're willing to talk to some new people because I'm a new
Right.
person.
Right.
And then there's going to be history, like who else have you talked to and how did that work out? And I like getting back to the brain training, the neuropsychology. It doesn't involve revelation, exposure, or vulnerability. It's just a question of what are your thinking habits and how can you change them? And you can do that in various ways. Right now, you buy these headsets that measure your brain waves, and then they work on a little smartphone app to show you your brain waves, and they challenge you to change your brain waves.
Mm.
And you say, well, how do you do it? And the uniform answer is no one knows how you do it. You can only see it being done. I
Right.
mean, so the typical metaphor I like to use is like riding a bicycle. How do you do it? Well, if I explained it to you, it would really be of no use. You have to develop a feeling. You have to
Right.
be reactive and attentive and develop a kind of muscle memory to behave more quickly
Mm.
than your thoughts do to avoid falling over while you're riding a bicycle. And
Right.
it's similar with brain training. I could explain something to you, it wouldn't matter, but in this case, it really wouldn't be much of an explanation anyway. Um, and it wouldn't be helpful. So you have to develop a certain, well, it's not muscle memory, it's neural memory or something. And it doesn't work for all things. So if you look at your brain waves, they're called waves. They're not really waves, but they're extracted as waves through a mathematical process. Really, it's just it looks like a lot of noise. So there's noise at different frequencies or different rhythms of noise. And some
Hmm.
of those rhythms can be trained and controlled, and others can't be. And again, I could try to train you to lower the amount of noise at a certain melody and
Hmm.
be more or less successful, and try at other types of noise, or, I'm avoiding the word frequency, but I might as well just use it, at other frequencies. And generally, to sort of cut to the chase here, high frequencies, it's you can use a musical analogy. High frequencies are enervating and aggravating and ultimately painful, just like scratching your nails on a blackboard. And
Hmm.
low frequencies tend to be sedating and calming, and they'll put you to sleep.
Hmm.
Just like music, lullabies make you placid and comfortable, and acid rock makes you jumpy and whatever.
Yeah.
So it kind of that metaphor works, but in this case, we're talking about brain frequencies. So you can learn certain brain frequencies, and there are certain similarities across all people. Then they have these names, they call them alpha and beta frequencies,
Hmm.
and there's a kind of topography, as if it were a kind of a geographic map of where you get high amplitudes and where you get low amplitudes and which is healthy and which is not. And it all gets very complicated and very obscure and very specific. I find it kind of fun because it combines technology with subjective experience. But, that's me.
Yeah.
So if you do indulge yourself for what amounts to, I guess, 150 US dollars to 400 US dollars, although you can spend more, for to get one of these devices, and you put it on and you try to look at your brain waves or try to train yourself. Often they won't even call them brain waves. They'll just call them success at achieving the goal of this meditation protocol.
Okay.
And then you get into the whole commercial thing and how they're spinning it and what they're willing to be
Right.
liable to say. And it's all kind of a tar baby of people's and corporate obligations and profits. And it gets distressing after a while. You go round and around and around. But it at a base, I do encourage people to try to do this. It's
And what is it called? What are these machines
it's
called?
called well, it should be called neurofeedback, but that
Okay.
sounds too medical for some of these companies, so they call it meditation aids or
Okay.
brainwave training
Okay.
or brain sensing headsets.
Okay.
Anyway, it could be done better and cheaper, but I've been doing this for 30, almost 40 years, and it hasn't gotten much cheaper. And the knowledge hasn't really gotten much more widely known either, which is too bad.
Yeah.
Um, I remember a long time ago, when was that? 2005 or 2000. I gave lectures to audiences of addiction counselors on the subject of how brainwave training could help people with addictions overcome them.
Hmm.
And it's just as effective as any other method. And no one had any interest at all. And they have never become interested or educated since.
Huh.
So it's frustrating. So as a
Yeah.
result, there's not a lot of people selling it because no one wants to buy it, in
Right.
spite of the fact that it's effective, easy, and fairly cheap.
Well, I
So
mean,
that's ridiculous.
it would probably help a lot of people, which means our sick culture
I know where you're going. I know where you're going with this.
would lose money. So,
I know. That's
you know,
so you've got to get out of the box. That's the
yeah. Yep.
box.
Yep. You
You
got to
you
get out of
got
the
to
box.
take some initiative, and that means risk, and that means facing your
Yep.
ignorance,
Yep.
along with all the other stuff, all your childhood trauma about how your father told you were never good enough,
Yep.
and the whole stuff. You open the closet door, and all this personal shit just falls
Everything
out.
falls out.
So you
Yeah.
got to face it.
You got to take your
Somebody's
health into your own hands.
And the last thing you need is some relationship problem or some fight with your kids or so you do. That's like step number 2.
Yeah.
Create an environment that supports you and eliminate from your environment all the irritations and negative forces that you've
Hmm.
allowed, invited, cultivated.
And I'm sure there's a lot of resistance when you bring up that step,
Um, so,
because that's
so what?
probably harder than the first step.
Well, if the first step is just learning, sure,
Yeah.
taking responsibility for what you've done that didn't work
Yep.
is. So I tell people, well, again, you can see how this self selects, that they should be more creative. They should
Hmm.
look at what it means to be creative. And being creative means doing stuff you haven't done before, doing stuff other people don't understand, doing stuff you can't quite evaluate easily, um, and accepting things that might be called failures. Well, here's an interesting story. One of my high performing clients is always kind of subject to a certain amount of duress because he's always trying to perform to a high standard and
Hmm.
always judging himself. And I said, look, isn't there something you can do that you can't, that you can just do because you enjoy it, not because you're good at it or somebody's rewarding you, paying you, or commending you for your great performance? And he said, well, yeah, I like to paint. I said, oh, great. So, hide yourself away somewhere and just start painting, doing stuff that you can't say it's good or bad, that's just an expression of your feeling and just is an exploration of whatever comes out.
Mm-hmm.
And so we started doing this, and he's found it very rewarding. Like,
Yeah.
oh, what a relief. I can do something. It's like play. You're not, you don't judge play. You just do it.
Right.
If
You
it
just
doesn't
play.
work, you do something else.
Yeah.
But then disaster struck. His wife walked in, and she said, that looks very nice. That looks really good. And now he's all fucked up. Now it's got to
Oh,
be good. Now he's got
right.
to meet her expectation and say,
Right.
oh, that's the last thing you wanted was to inject bias and return you to the high performance mindset.
Yep.
So this is what you want. You want to get out of judgment so that you can get into being creative and experimental. You have to welcome failure as much as success. It doesn't even mean anything anymore.
Yeah.
So when you talk to me, or, getting right down to it, when you listen to us, you and I talking on this podcast, you have to have the mindset that it doesn't matter what you think. You're just looking for interesting things hidden in the ground,
I love that.
interesting things hidden in the past.
Yeah.
And you don't understand this stuff because the stuff you thought you understood, you're all stuck on and
Right.
has ossified into, some attitude of your self-conception
Yeah.
or presentation. But you can imagine if you told a person that they should go out in public and not care how they appeared, it would be very difficult.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to stink or look disheveled and dirty. Yet in a sense, you want to be able to. I mean, that's pushing it a bit far, but you want to overcome your self-image in order to get new insight.
Yeah.
And here is um, it's like the story of this typical myth of the king who goes and lives as a commoner to understand the life of the people around him. The
Mm-hmm.
Buddha did this, and
Yep.
King Arthur did this, and you've got to let go of your self-image to understand other people. And so I did this when I traveled, and anyone does this. That's why travel is so great,
Mm-hmm.
because you don't exactly know how to appear, and
So you can be
your
whoever you want.
presentation is not going to be exactly
Right.
interpreted the way you think in
Yeah.
another culture.
Yep.
And um, you may feel humiliated because you're not achieving the impression you expect.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I take this to counseling. How are you going to present yourself to me? And, I'm not judgmental. I'm just here to make money, just like Sigmund Freud said. You pay me and I do my best.
Right.
And that means that unlike your friends, I don't need your friendship. I don't need your approval.
Right.
And I try to be pretty upfront about what I'll tolerate from you in terms of, you know, your attitudes and violence and
Mm-hmm.
prejudice. And
Right.
you have to understand I'm here to change the equation somehow, change your equation by
Yeah.
saying stupid things, exploring my ignorance, un uncovering your ignorance, and you've got to be okay with that. And it's got to be kind of a game, like
Yeah.
play. Maybe even it's funny. I mean, why not? So, your original question was, how do you attract people to change themselves? Well, you try to get them in a state of mind where it's okay to change,
Mm-hmm.
where maybe it's funny, or maybe it doesn't make sense. And so far, our conversation has concerned things that you vaguely or strongly control, like your mind and your perceptions and your attitudes. And uh, then I try to introduce this idea of brainwaves. And what brainwaves basically come down to is awareness. What are you aware of that you, or what could you be aware of that you aren't? What flexibility might you have that you don't?
Mm-hmm.
What can you be relaxed? Can you easily become relaxed? Do you have trouble falling asleep? How's your digestion? How much physical exercise are you
Yeah.
getting? Why does it annoy you to do certain things? Um, might you try them maybe again or in a different way and get a different result? Like I say, if you're young, how about meeting old people? If you're old, how about meeting young people?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Just try different things to see what lands.
well, you obviously have to be open. If you're just going to
Yeah.
be a closed
Yeah.
old curmudgeon, you're
Right.
not going to get anywhere. But
Right.
so it's a two-stage thing. You have to do something different and you have to think something different.
Yeah.
Can't do one or the other, or you'll just be back where you started.
Right. Right.
So the brainwave training is interesting because it's just about awareness and some skills we take for granted, like your intellectual ability or your language, your musical ability, or your balance or your physical whatever, physical abilities,
Mm-hmm.
somatic abilities, intellectual,
Yeah.
emotional. And then like kind of the third leg of this triad is your subconscious. What are you afraid of? What don't you think about? What are the bounds of what's appropriate? And this is a kind of dicey boundary to explore. It's one that people usually avoid. You know, what are the limits of what's appropriate? And so you could say, well, that's pretty well said. I'm not going to like take my clothes off in public. I'm not going to be really cruel to people I don't know. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not going to be really forward and to people I don't know. Certain social boundaries which extend to your family and your children, your adults, parents. And I understand that. But in spite of that, there are still thoughts you're not willing to have,
Right.
images you don't want to consider. And I feel that it's important to at least approach the boundary, if not go over the boundary. And sometimes that's, memories of trauma. Do
Mm-hmm.
you remember being hit by your parents? Do you remember being in an auto accident? Do you remember being heartbroken? And, the answer to those questions is probably no. I don't remember it and I don't want to. And I understand that. But on the other hand, in your dreams and in your sort of fears, those things continue to set overly protective boundaries,
Yeah.
things you're afraid of.
Yeah.
And the fear, the fear at least isn't helpful. Now, what you're afraid of, well, maybe you don't want to re-traumatize yourself, but you probably do want to get over the trauma of being abused by your parents, which a
Right.
lot of, I mean, you can't hardly help it. Parents don't know what they're doing, and kids are
I
much
mean,
more
right.
sensitive.
They don't, we don't come with a manual as kids. And depending on what their parents' upbringing was, right, they have their own traumas that they're trying to work through or
Right,
work around.
right. So, you've got this stuff, and the more you look at it, so this is the bottom line here. The more you look at this stuff, and this is the least easy stuff to look at, the more you see that it defines the limits of what you can do.
Hmm.
So, my relationship with my mother has pretty much defined the relationships that I had with my significant partners as an adult.
Yeah.
So like we were back to Sigmund Freud. I was never interested in having sex with my mother. That was just ridiculous. But I can appreciate the fact that my relationship to my mother, in very indirect, sometimes oppositional, sometimes contradictory ways, has defined who I'm comfortable having relationships with.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
do I Do I want an accepting person? Do I want a remote person? Do what am I used to? What have I resonate with? What triggers me?
Right. Yeah.
And and I've started to see these boundaries. I'm still not, willing to go beyond them.
Hmm.
I don't even know what that means. But, the boundaries are still
They're there.
charged. They're
Yeah.
there and they're charged. And when I deal with people as a counselor, I kind of want to take them to that
Yeah.
area, which they would not go to, and from which they've insulated themselves in terms of their social environment,
Hmm.
kind of people who reward the, who develops a social environment that's constantly annoying to you? You'd be considered, borderline insane if you were always oppositional. In fact, I have had schizophrenic clients who always get in trouble.
Hmm.
They always get in combative situations, and they're
Yeah.
considered crazy, and it doesn't work very well for them. So for those people, I say, well, consider it differently. Look at it this way. Maybe it's not what you think. Maybe there's another way to deal with the situation. But in, doing what you could call shadow work, I kind
Hmm.
of want you to bring the shadow
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
and to engage them. Oh, here's it. I love this little story. A person, it's a one paragraph story. What was the guy doing? Was it a dream? The dream was, I'll call it a dream. The dream was that the person was being chased by a gorilla. And it was frightening, terrifying experience. And they were running away. And at some point, they gained a certain amount of lucidity. And they said, I have to stop running. I have to face this.
Hmm.
And they stopped. They turned. And the gorilla turned into a man. And the man said, you have to be more careful about how you present yourself. And that's kind of the bottom line, is that some of these frightening things
Right.
are really quite simple if you just get over your fear.
Yeah.
And so, as a counselor, those are the things I'd like to find, the easy
Yeah.
things that would make changes. So, what did you ask? How to attract people to change themselves? Well, try to lower the fear level, try to raise the interest level, try to
Hmm.
enhance the creativity and playfulness. Um, and I do that with some people will respond to my sense of humor, others won't. I was just showing my 15-year-old last night Marx Brothers movies. These are from the
Mm.
1930s.
Yeah.
And he thought it was just stupid. I mean, it is
Yeah.
just stupid. I thought it was great when I was 8, but their time is gone.
Yeah.
That level of slapstick and weirdness and romance and God knows what they put together. It's not funny anymore.
Right.
And that's why nobody really watches it. So,
Yeah.
everybody has their own sort of level of what they think is engaging. And sometimes I can reach it. So I tend to have successful, technical, affluent white male clients
Hmm.
because that's where I came from. I'd
Right.
like to have more. I also have schizophrenics, but they're a wild card. You never know when you're going to draw them, and that's fine. But I don't have Native Americans. I don't have. I have had a few clients who were African or Afro American, but I tend to work with them in a different way for a different duration
Hmm.
with a different sense of humor and culture. And I don't have Native American clients. I had a guy from Kazakhstan once. I was so excited,
Okay.
but it turned out, God damn, he was just like everybody else.
Yeah.
Big surprise. Um, so I'm always doing outreach to kind of see. I'd
Yeah.
like to work with more women because I think I've learned something about male-female relationships that would be useful. But for the most part, they don't want to hear it. So, you know,
Yeah.
how do you attract more people to change themselves? you kind of have to work with what they're willing to hear. And of
Right.
course, I charge money, so that even raises the bar. Now
Right. Yep.
they want to hear it now. They don't want to, waste an hour
Right.
putting up with me.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
that's the story of how I got
Wow.
here, and I find it
It's a great
interesting.
story.
It
It's a great
complements
story.
being technical, which is kind
Yeah.
of boring and frustrating because you don't deal with people when you're dealing with
Yeah.
technical problems.
Yeah. But it brought you to a space where you are now dealing with people.
Right. And I never thought I would, right? Who would think a physicist would deal with people?
Yeah.
But it was missing from
Yeah.
that equation, and this sort
Yeah.
of fills it in.
It does. Lincoln, as we wrap up this conversation, is there anything that you want the listeners to know or to hear that we didn't touch on?
Um, well, I want to give a plug to the counseling profession. I think it's worth getting somebody, or at least looking for somebody, who will push you in a new direction.
Yeah.
And you have to recognize that everything you've done has insulated yourself in a comfortable membrane. Unless you're crazy, that's what we call crazy people, the ones who can't
Hmm.
create a membrane of safety around themselves. So if you're crazy, then you're in a different ballpark and you probably know it. But if you're like normal, like the rest of us, then the world you've built is also the world that limits you. And it's
Hmm.
worth spending some time, money, and resources in finding somebody who will point out your, I call them guardrails, the
Hmm.
guardrails you've erected
Right. Yeah.
that keep you on the circular path that you've developed, which
Yeah.
is limiting you. So be, what could you say? Playful, creative. Uh, to me, reject institutional ideas. Just look at politics these days, and the more you look at it, the more dysfunctional those people and their efforts
Yep.
are. I mean, it's
Yep.
obvious
Yeah.
that
Absolutely.
you really, we hold politicians and celebrities in high esteem. Well, I don't think you should.
Right. No,
I
I
think they
agree.
represent our failure more than our success. And you don't want to be like them. You really don't. And so that's what with the message I give people is to be, how do you want to call it? Weirder, different, more yourself. I mean,
Unique.
confront your weakness and build your strengths in
Yeah.
ways that are particular to you. Talk to the unusual people
Hmm.
and say the unusual things, and don't be afraid to fail or be castigated for your divergent opinions.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a start.
It sounds like a good start. Where can they find you, Lincoln?
My website is big, too big, some people say. It's got books, it's got therapy, it's got sleep, it's got education. Mindstrengthbalance.com is the name of it. 3 words without any spaces. Mindstrengthbalance.com. And there's a blog which you can sign up, subscribe to for nothing, or get more content if you subscribe to for pay. And there are products which you should look at, which are self hypnosis audio files on different subjects.
Okay.
So medical subjects, like psychological subjects, creative subjects. And I take my own medicine here and I create self hypnosis scripts on anything like learning, like being a parent, like strengthening your immune system.
Hmm.
They're offbeat ideas, and
Yeah.
and a certain number of them are free, so
Good.
you can check them out.
Oh, I think everybody deserves an exchange of energy. So if anybody who's listening to this, if you're interested in some of the hypnosises, try some of the paid ones too, because I have found that when you do an exchange of energy, you get more out of it.
I want to pitch the subscription to the free blog. If you sign up, you get a digital copy of the book I just released this month
Beautiful. And
called
what's the book called?
it's called Dreaming Yourself into Being. It's about
Nice.
dreams, working with
Okay.
dreams.
Perfect. Lincoln, thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us on the Metamorphosis Project podcast. I hope today's episode brought you inspiration, joy, and a spark of empowerment. Remember, transformation is an incredible journey, and every single step you take towards self-care and healing brings you closer to the life you truly desire. If this episode uplifted you, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your support helps us to share this journey of hope, resilience, and joy with many listeners. For more tips, support, and inspiration, come and visit us at designyourexistence.com. Until next time, keep growing, keep healing, and keep shining brightly. You are absolutely worth every bit of love and care you give to yourself. Take care, stay joyful, and be well.